Mhm. Hi, everyone. This is Krista Moore with K Coaching, and thank you for joining the Krista Moore Talk Show. It's great to have you today. We have a very special guest because many of you do know that it is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, and the month of May is all dedicated to skin cancer awareness and prevention. And my guest today is Stephanie Carter, and she's the founder of Wallaroo Hats. Stephanie, are you there?
I am. Hi, good morning.
Great to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, and one of the reasons that I wanted to have Stephanie as our guest is, first off, I love your hats. I've been a fan of Wallaroo hats for many years. I just thought that the whole topic of skin cancer awareness and that you can be fashionable and still be out in the sun is important for our audience. So I wanted them to get to know you and learn some things along the way. So thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Why don't you give a little bit of background on yourself, tell them about who you are, maybe a little bit about the company.
Sure. So I founded Wallaroo Hat Company in 1999 after I had been visiting my husband's family in Australia. He comes from Canberra, the capital of Australia, and his mother was out in the garden and she had this beautiful purple cotton sun hat on, and it caught my eye. I was always a hat wearer and somebody who was cautious of the sun, and I loved her hat and ran around and bought several before I came back to the States. And everybody who saw me with those hats actually said, "That's a great hat. Where did you get it?" At the time, there was nothing like it in the market. Nobody had had any type of fabric hat. Most every hat was straw back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back, and my friends all said, "Those are great hats. You should really consider bringing them in somehow to the United States." And one thing led to another. I was actually an attorney at the time. I had graduated from law school in 1993 and was practicing law actively while raising my kids, and thought, well, this is something I might be really interested in, and got in touch with the designer who actually was manufacturing hats for the Australian Cancer Council. And they are very similar to the United States Skin Cancer Foundation or the American Cancer Society, and they sell products. And so we connected with each other, and I said I was interested in bringing his products in, designing and working with him. And so we collaborated, and within, I don't know, maybe 6 months, I had founded Wallaroo Hat Company here in Boulder, Colorado, which is where we're based. And I started the company with a friend of mine, and it just, one thing led to another, and it's taken off.
That's exciting. So you're an entrepreneur as well as an attorney.
Absolutely.
Did you know you had that in you?
I did. I think from a very young age, I was always very entrepreneurial. I had a paper route when I was a kid. I was always working, doing different jobs, trying to, make money. And before I began Wallaroo, I actually had a small Mexican importing business with a friend of mine from law school, where we would go to Mexico and buy things and bring them back, and we were selling them. So I had a little bit of experience. I was putting my law degree to use, and I was also taking time to, start to learn something about importing and figuring out how to get things across the border and into the United States. So when I started Wallaroo, I wasn't a complete stranger to the importing and distribution.
Yeah, which is terrific. And then there's that whole world of skin cancer.
Yes.
And the research behind that. And I think one of the things that attracted me to Wallaroo was that your hats are tested and they're labeled that they have the UPF 50 in them. So I'd love to kind of talk about some facts, maybe myths, legends of skin cancer to just educate our audience a little bit on some of the kind of astonishing facts that exist today.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I think that Wallaroo became as significant as it has is because Australia is one of the places in the world that has the highest incidence of melanoma. They have a large hole in their ozone, and they get tremendous amounts of UVA and UVB rays. So their population is extremely aware. So we took, I think, what was a very unique idea at the time, and sort of became pioneers in the ultraviolet sun protection industry in the United States. And the difference between UPF, which is what hats and clothing are rated, That's what's used when you are trying to get some kind of protection level indication using UPF, ultraviolet protection factor. For skincare products, that's why sunscreen has SPF. So that's a different rating. So there are two different types of ratings. And the Australians, I think, again, were the ones that really championed the UPF, and we brought that forward into the United States. So
Yeah,
all of our
there is that confusion between, SPF and UPF, and I remember trying to learn it and understand it myself. But I've noticed that maybe it is because of more skin cancer awareness that there are more clothiers, there are more hats getting rated, and that the UPF is more popular now in clothes and not just in like hiking wear, but just in everyday fashionable clothes. What can you say about the UPF? Is it a system? Is it a chemical? Is it how the clothes are made?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question because we do have a lot of people asking about that. So a UPF rating has to do with the density of the weave of the fabric or material that a product is made out of. So for instance, a cotton t-shirt that you might buy, say at some place like Target, would probably have a UPF rating in white, color white, about 5 UPF, which is a very small amount of UPF rating. So we try to get fabrics, for instance, this type of fabric, which is a much more densely woven, and we send it to the Australian Nuclear Safety and Radiation Protection Agency, and they have a machine that they use to shoot UV light through the material, and it gives you a rating based on how much light can penetrate the fabric. So I find it sort of amusing. I think now putting UPF rating on clothing has become sort of a fad, and it is sort of interesting to me because I'll go shopping and I'll see bikinis with a UPF 50 plus rating, which I think is ironic in that, yes, you are getting a very small amount of UPF coverage. Well done, on certain parts of your body, but you're still exposed everywhere else.
That's right.
So,
well, and you can kind of lift up the material and you can feel there's a couple of ladies' fashion dresses that are thick, like Catherine Way. I don't know if you're familiar with Catherine Way's fabric. It doesn't say UPF 50 on it, but you can tell that it's the way that it's woven and how dense it is. And those fabrics have more stretch in too.
Yeah, and just because something isn't rated doesn't mean that it won't offer good sun protection. I think the most important thing is that when things are rated, that you look at sort of the way the clothing is, what areas of the skin it's protecting and what kind of coverage you're getting. So,
there's also there's a lot of conversation around sun protection and the SPF factors. What are your thoughts on SPF and sun protection?
Well, I think it is really critical for people to always wear some type of sun protective clothing, whether it's a sun protective shirt or a sun protective top, sort of sun protective pants. And if you are a person that enjoys the outdoors, of course, it is really critical to wear a hat. And I am a big believer in sunscreen. I know that there has been a lot of conversation recently about sunscreen perhaps being not good for your health, but skin cancer is worse for your health. So I think you have to really balance the difference and the potential danger between wearing, sunscreen or sun protective clothing. So I do recommend that people wear. There's a lot of great companies out there. There's UV Skins that do great clothing for adults and children. There is Solumbra Sun Precautions that make lots of nice clothing. They do some hats as well. And lots of, there are several companies you can find online that are making nice, very lightweight and flowy sun protective clothing.
And I think, I've started to wear a whole lot more of that, kind of changing my wardrobe up since I was diagnosed with cancer last year. I just, I don't want to go through what I went through last year. So if there's anything that I can do to protect it, I'm going to. However, a lot of the damage, if I understand it correctly, is done at a young age.
Yeah, they tend to say, I think the Skin Cancer Foundation says that most sunburns that people receive before the age, I believe it's like before the age of 10 or 15, cause the majority of sun damage that we find later in life. So it's really important that you cover up your kids with adequate sunscreen or keep them covered up completely in rash guards when they're at the beach so that they're not getting those sunburns. And I think if you can avoid having a sunburn on your child, their chances of developing skin cancer later in life are significantly reduced.
Yeah, I
So,
want to show you something.
okay.
So I'm a new grandma,
Oh,
and
that's adorable.
I'm obsessed with not, with making sure that the little baby has all these clothes. Zulily loves me because I keep ordering this UPF 50 clothes for the baby. But UV Skin, is that the name of them? Yeah,
Yeah.
UV Skins. This was free when I ordered, actually I ordered swim pants for myself, which is kind of weird, but I thought they'd be great to walk on the beach with, and if they got wet, that'd be fine. And they're
Yeah.
pretty cool. I tried them on, they fit nice, and so I'll be swimming in swim pants. But this was the free gift, and they have this whole promotion about making sure that no babies even know what sunburn is. And
Yeah.
I love the toddler hat. I mean, if we could get these kids realizing this at a young age and at an early age, that's critical, I think, in just how they behave. I
Definitely.
know at our age group, there wasn't even sunscreen. We were
Yeah.
laying out with iodine and baby oil, wanting
Yeah.
to be tan. But I think the awareness is out there, and it really starts at a young age. So this is actually a promo going on to the end of the month for skin cancer awareness.
I think that's great. If they had one in my size, I would buy it.
Yeah, it's super cute.
There's another
Now,
company that I'd
go
like
ahead.
to mention that does great tops for people who are more active in golf and tennis, which is called Sans Soleil, which means without sun in French. And they're based out of California, and they have just blossomed into the sun protective scene because they're doing a lot of fun, colorful prints, and they really appeal to people who are, more active and outdoors, and they really have worked on getting lightweight, breathable types of materials. So again, there's just so much innovation happening right now in sun
Mm-hmm.
protective clothing and in hats. So as you mentioned, I mean, Wallaroo we do a nice line of kids hats and smaller little baby hats with Velcro chin straps, which we have cleverly attached on the upper part of the strap, so the kids they can't pull it off and take the
Yeah.
hat off, because babies often want to pull things off. But again, we really feel like this messaging starts at a very young age, and it's difficult because as we get into teenage years, our kids tend to have a desire to wear baseball caps. And as you're probably aware, baseball caps are incredibly they're not great for skin cancer protection and prevention because they don't cover your nose adequately. The tips of your ears are always exposed when you're wearing a baseball hat, and the back of your neck.
Mm-hmm.
So there are high incidence of skin cancer when people wear baseball caps, and they just don't provide the right kind of broad coverage that you need.
Yeah, I think that's important to communicate because so many people think, well, I'm like golfing. I'm wearing my hat. I've got my hat. And most guys will wear baseball caps before they'll wear a fashion hat. But I know of a number of cases of men that have gotten cancer on their ears and on the back of their neck, and basically due to that.
Yeah, and we see a lot of men converting. We have a very nice broad brimmed hat that's great for golf. It actually has packable material. And a lot of men are converting to wearing broad brimmed hats because they've had, as you mentioned, experiences with really bad skin cancers. And once you get something cut off, you're not likely to go back to wearing a baseball cap.
That's right. I'm actually going to show this picture. Some of you may know that I had skin cancer last year, but as you can see on the left, I had 60 sutures on my nose. So if you're going to have skin cancer, there's lots of places you're going to have it, but I had it right here in the middle of my face. Some of you saw the public service announcement that I did 3 days after surgery, really trying to create that heightened awareness and also for early detection. This was detected by accident during my first full body scan. So we're encouraging people to make sure that you have your full body scan and you're actually looking and know your body and notice anything that's different. And you should be examining it at least personally once a month and knowing your body. And then, with fair skin, red hair, we're more inclined. Also, to the right, you'll see a great men's hat. Both of these hats are Wallaroo. I want to thank you, Stephanie, because you contributed to a sponsorship for Office Products Women in Leadership and the City of Hope, which is for cancer research. And you sent a bunch of hats. We had a wonderful time sharing them. And this was just taken last weekend with Eddie and I on the bourbon tour. So actually, this was my first Wallaroo hat. And every hat has a name, which I think is kind of cute.
That's the Victoria Diva.
This is
that's
Victorian. And I think I bought this maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was the only hat I ever wore. And I love it. And it's definitely packable.
Oh,
yeah. And that's where I got to know Wallaroo, because I loved this hat. Now I have 50 hats.
I mean, well, you're rivaling my collection, or my mother, actually.
You know the tall hat racks that are in stores? I've got one in my bedroom. But this is the Napa. Now, the one thing about, let's talk a little bit about the brim on hats too, because it's recommended to cover the back of your neck and your ears in the front to have a 3-inch to 4-inch brim. Is that right?
That's correct. So the Skin Cancer Foundation and the American Cancer Society both recommend at least a 3-inch brim. The reason is you won't get that coverage of your nose and your ears and the back of your neck if you have a shorter brim than that. It is important to recognize you can get a UPF 50 plus rating on a hat with a smaller brim. But as I mentioned earlier, it's so critical that people wear sunscreen and a hat and sunglasses or some type of UPF protective clothing just to make sure that you are protecting yourself. And to your point a minute ago, early detection is what saves lives. Skin cancer, all types of skin cancer are actually the leading cause of, well, I don't know if they're the leading cause of death, but they are actually, more people are diagnosed with skin cancer in the United States than all other types of cancer combined. And it's the most preventable, which is the thing that is just crazy, that we have the opportunity to actually not get skin cancer, and yet we seem to have a huge amount of people being diagnosed every year.
And I wanted to also mention the term melanoma. So some people hear melanoma and they recognize that as skin cancer. And that is one of the most dangerous of skin cancers because it is more fast spreading than some of the more surface skin cancer. And for example, mine was basal cell carcinoma. They were able to remove it and it was all clean margins, but because it's kind of slow growing. Eddie, on the other hand, was diagnosed with melanoma on his back and on his stomach, just had surgery a couple of weeks ago. So I have since, gotten him a lot of the UPF 50 clothesline, and he's going to the broader brim hats ever since, I started being the hat lady. He's like the hat man.
And it's important to remember with melanoma that they all look different. I mean, you could have a melanoma that looks like a little pink dot the size of a pencil tip. You could have a melanoma that looks like a big dark black mole with irregular borders on it. And they all look different. And it is important to get those annual skin checks to make sure you're not missing something. And of course, as you mentioned, the reason melanoma is so much deadlier than other types of skin cancer is because it has the possibility to metastasize. So it can spread to different parts of the body. And that's why early detection, again, is critical. And it is really based on that sun protection and tanning beds, something that people thought, back in the 1980s, were relatively safe because they provided different type of UV or UVB penetration, actually turned out now to be extremely dangerous. And it sounds that the research that's coming out now sounds like people that have used tanning beds in the past have a much higher rate.
Yeah.
The possibility of developing.
We were talking about that. I think if you used a tanning bed before the age of 35, you have a 75% more likelihood of getting melanoma. And that's a big number. And most people used to think that melanoma was hereditary. But what celebrity, this is a trivia question, what celebrity passed away from melanoma?
Well, I happen to know this question because I'm in this industry, but it is Bob Marley. And he actually found a melanoma on the bottom of his foot, and he died at a very young age. I believe he was maybe 35 or 37 when he died. And it metastasized, and he did not live very long after finding it. And one of the curious things is I think that African Americans often think that they don't have as high of a probability of developing a skin cancer because of the pigment in their skin, or they think there's more, less risk. But in fact, you have the same amount of risk and probability of developing it, perhaps not as high as, somebody with white skin, but it is still a risk, and they still need to also be cautious of the sun.
Yeah. One thing I did bring today, because I wanted to show, there's also so many different sunscreens out there. And I've learned the differences between them, but I know what to look for now in a sunscreen. And this is what was recommended by my dermatologist, which is there's a couple of things to look for on the label. And one is UVA/UVB protection.
Right,
So
broad spectrum.
Go ahead. And broad spectrum. Also, if it contains zinc oxide.
Yep, very helpful.
And some people don't like the ones that are high in zinc oxide because they'll be very white and hard to rub in, but just know that that's really working. And that you do need sunscreen either in your makeup or applying it every day, whether it's sunny or cloudy.
Yeah, and Ulta MD is a great company. We've been involved recently. Wallaroo has been involved with an organization called the Colorado Melanoma Foundation, and they have recently gone through a large fundraising campaign, and they have put together a huge bus, looks like a rock band tour bus, but it has been sponsored by Ulta MD, underwritten by Ulta MD Skincare, and also Wallaroo is a sponsor of that. And they are taking that bus around Colorado and other regional areas and doing free skin cancer screenings. So over the course of the next year, they will probably conduct thousands and thousands of skin cancer screenings for free. So they'll go into communities and show up. For instance, on Memorial Day weekend, we have a huge festival in Boulder, and they'll pull the bus up. And anybody that wants to get a skin cancer screening can just come and go, and there are dermatologists inside the bus actually working, and they will get a skin cancer screening. And if the dermatologist sees anything suspicious, they will provide, follow-up treatment or let them know what they need to do to take care of it. So it's a great public service, and also, as you mentioned, is one of the leading sponsors of that. So they're really putting their money where their mouth is, which I think is cool. Wallaroo is going to have hats in there, so people can buy hats, so they can leave the bus with a nice Wallaroo hat also.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, and I just want to say that I want to congratulate you on creating this business. That's such a business that could have impact on a lot of people's lives personally. And I know that you're educated and passionate about this subject of skin cancer, early detection and awareness and protection. And I'm just glad you took a few minutes out to join me on the show.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being able to share some of what I've learned over the course of the last 20 years since we started this company. And just, we hear a lot of stories from different people around the United States that have been victims of either melanoma or different types of skin cancers. And there's a huge awareness and a very large community of people who are very concerned and want to make sure that they stay protected from the sun. And our job at Wallaroo is to provide things that are fashionable but functional, so that people get out into the world and look good in their hats and look good in their fashion and not feel like they're dorky or
that's
somehow
right. And they're also cool. They're cool meaning not hot. Like the material. Most people think that when you wear a hat, oh, it's going to be hot, I'm going to sweat. But there must be something magical about your hats, because I've never experienced that.
Yes, well, I will say the biggest complaint that I get is women who worry about getting hat head. And so I sort of think, okay, well, would you rather have skin cancer or hat hair? I don't know. So, there is a balance there, and there are, some styles that fit slightly larger, so you could actually get a slightly larger hat, and then you wouldn't have to worry so much about having hat hair. But you're committed. It's a commitment. When you put a hat on, if you're going to wear it all day, you're going to probably wear it all day. It's, it's like a baseball hat, and that's a good thing because you're protecting yourself. So we are always happy to see people walking around in Wallaroo hats and looking fashionable and making the commitment to protect themselves.
Yeah, and that's kind of my thing. I mean, I'm the hashtag the hat lady. And like I said, I got 50 of them, but I want, when people see it, I want them to think, oh my gosh, that's fashionable, that's cute, but I should have a hat too because it's smart. It's just, you know.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
right.
And we do fund, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead with what you were going to say.
Well, I was just going to say we do participate in a 1% Sun Protection Give Back campaign. So one of the things that we committed to very early on when I started the company was to give back 1% of our proceeds every year to different organizations that have something to do with skin cancer education and research and prevention. And we donate a lot of money every year to the Skin Cancer Foundation in New York. We've donated money to this Colorado Melanoma Foundation, also to the Melanoma Research Foundation, and other organizations. There's another company called the Shade Foundation, and they take donations and they put large shade structures up in different playgrounds and public areas around the United States.
Oh, that's nice. I haven't heard of that.
Yeah. So, you know, we just try to kind of find companies or organizations that are doing things in the skin cancer world that we can support and try to make that part of our mission as well. So we really want Wallaroo to be sort of an outreach and, you know, performance-based company that can really also put our money where our mouth is in terms of the message.
Awesome. And it's great to talk to the founder who has a vision and a dream and is bringing that to the world. So I'm excited.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the great work. And I may see you in July when I'm in Boulder for a visit.
Okay, I would love that. Come on by and you can come and get a hat of any variety. And definitely people can find us on the internet at
Wallaroo. We're going to show a slide here that will give you some additional information, and certainly check out wallaroohats.com. I know I personally got a catalog in the mail a couple of weeks ago, and it's a fabulous catalog. I mean, I still like the old-fashioned, you know, flip through, put the corner of the page down to pick out my hats, but you have got a terrific website for that as well. And also, I follow you on Facebook, but I would encourage others to do the same. You can share pictures, share stories, and it's where you post a lot of your sales, and that's just a great way to stay connected.
Yeah, and we're also on Instagram for people that like to take sort of interesting photographs of themselves, and they can send them in and we'll post them on our Instagram page also. So that's always another fun place to find us, and you can certainly find us on Facebook, and then there are links to our other social media sites. So
great.
And thank you, Krista, for your great.
Thank you. See ya. Take care. Thanks. I just want to tell everyone that I appreciate you taking the time out to care for yourself today and learn more about skin cancer, learn more about prevention and ways that maybe you can continue to educate others, like our children and our family, about some of the, you know, the bad things that can happen to you and ways that you can prevent that. So I encourage you, as the hat lady, wear your hat. Take care.